The votes are in, and not only were thousands of them cast, but it was double the number of votes from last year. So the very first thing I want to do is A, thank so many of you for voting again, and B, welcome also many of you to the Beyond the Trailer community. Now, let's get to the results. Number 10. Blade Runner 2049. I'm sure many of you are very happy to see this movie on the list. And hopefully someday soon, Denis Villeneuve will not only have supporters as passionate as Christopher Nolan's, but as many as Nolan does. Because sadly, as you might recall, it was noted that Blade Runner 2049 had to hit $400 million for Alcon Entertainment not to be in danger of going out of business. We haven't heard about them going out of business just yet, but it only got to 258, so that's a far cry from 400. As some of you pointed out who are really rooting for this movie, maybe the ancillary market will save it. And if it keeps ending up on top 10 lists, maybe it will. But it didn't even get Mad Max Fury Road numbers, so hopefully it won't take as long for Villeneuve to make his next film as it's taking George Miller. What's happening with you, George Miller? Mad Max Fury Road got a lot of Oscars and nominations too. All right, so anyway, I think it's ironic that just like the first Blade Runner, the sequel also turned out to be a cult hit, which means decades from now, people will love this movie too. It has a lot of the same problems as the first Blade Runner too, I think, in terms of pacing, etc. But anyway, number 9, Beauty and the Beast. That's right, you don't make over $1 billion at the box office without winning over a few fans. Yes, before the Greatest Showman soundtrack became our latest obsession, we had this soundtrack on repeat. So the question is whether or not Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, and Disney live-action fairy tales, particularly of the musical variety, if they can repeat this success. Now, number 8 is Get Out. I'm surprised it's not higher up on this list, but the fact that Get Out, and in fact another horror film, can get on this list with pretty much mostly blockbusters, definitely proves that the horror genre is entering a renaissance. Very interesting. And speaking of fans, Jordan Peele is another director quickly assembling his own army of them. In fact, I would say he's the biggest star to come out of Get Out, despite a lot of talented people who actually were on camera. Number 7, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Not so sweet innocent Yondu and Baby Groot, I think, were the real takeaways from this sequel, which harkens back to a simpler time when it looked like James Gunn was going to rule the MCU post Joss Whedon and then the Russo brothers. But then Taika Waititi came along, cribbing from Gunn. And just wait till you see where Thor Ragnarok ended up on your list. All right, number 6, get this, Star Wars The Last Jedi. The fact that the movie did make this list, but only at number 6 for a Star Wars movie. But I can also tell you that even though it didn't make your top 5 worst movies for the year, it got a lot of votes for worst movie. And that just shows, I think, it proves how divided the fan base has become. Now, many of you keep saying, whenever we talk about Star Wars, what is the problem? It's made $1 billion already. They've made $4 billion at the box office since it became a Disney property, etc., etc. Well, this is the problem. And if Star Wars keeps leaking fans, who knows what other previously unthinkable things might happen in the future. Like really, would you ever think that a Star Wars movie, particularly after the success of The Force Awakens, would be number 6 on a fan top 10 list? All right, so number 5, It. The other horror movie on the list, and likely what just got new lines, Walter Hamada, who shepherded this film along with Warner Brothers' other horror properties to be promoted to the president of the DCEU. This was made for just $35 million and it brought in $700 million worldwide, and it is the definition of a game changer. And I think we're just beginning to see the ripple effect from its success. I just can't wait for It Chapter 2. If they can cast the Adult Losers Club well, it's going to be amazing. All right, number 4, Spider-Man Homecoming, a true crowd pleaser, even if not a big headline maker. Still, this bodes very well for Spidey's sequel, as well as his continued presence in the MCU. He got highlighted very nicely in the Avengers Infinity War trailer. But it's also very promising for all those spin-offs that Sony has planned. I'm sure much to the annoyance of Kevin Feige. Maybe not if they're good. There's not only the Venom movie with Tom Hardy in it, that's so exciting, an amazing cast across the board there, but then also the Miles Morales-led Into the Spider-Verse which I think is very exciting. All right, so number 3, here it is, Thor Ragnarok. Under Taika Waititi's leadership, the MCU went meta. And it'll be interesting to see if he shifts the course of the entire MCU going forward, as I think James Gunn did to some degree, and also the Russo brothers with their first hit for Marvel, The Winter Soldier. Also, will Thor finally become a more popular character, not just in the movies, but maybe also even in the comics? I mean, the MCU made Cap as popular as Iron Man. Not really in the comics, but I don't think the comics ever capitalized on what the MCU accomplished. Stupidly. Marvel Comics is having a lot of problems. But I think that they made Cap even more popular than Iron Man, actually. And so now you have to wonder if we're entering the age of Thor. They didn't play him up too much in the Infinity War trailer, but maybe they'll change their mind going forward. And we don't know how big a role he plays in that film. But it's very exciting. I think the most interesting thing will be if he gets another solo movie. It's supposed to be 3 and you're done. But I think Thor Ragnarok is just a rousing success. And he did it with only one other Avenger, Hulk. Whereas, Civil War, of course, was basically Avengers 2.5. All right, so it's down to Logan and Wonder Woman for the top 2 movies. And the runner-up is Logan. Now, many of you fought hard for this film to beat out Wonder Woman for number 1. And while Wonder Woman and Logan were way ahead of all the other movies, it wasn't even close. Wonder Woman was way ahead of Logan when it came down to just the 2 of them. However, Logan fans, you can take heart because Logan is pulling ahead, seriously pulling ahead in awards season. Probably because it's not only a very good movie, but it wasn't Tanya Harding'd by Justice League. Oh, Justice League, what you've done to Wonder Woman's legacy. But anyway, the film's rewatchability factor and finality might hurt its ability to remain high profile with fandom, but I think it's clearly one of the greatest comic book movies and westerns ever made. And then yes, number 1, your number 1 movie is Wonder Woman. It got by far and away the most votes, proving that here is a fandom that's both passionate and large, including many people I think who never imagined they'd be part of it. For instance, the other day during the holidays, it was just me and my dad hanging out, and we were looking for something to watch, and I was like, do you want to try Bright? And he was like, sure, and then he fell asleep, and I was like, okay, well, you want to watch Wonder Woman? I had purchased it for the live screening that I did with you guys, live streaming, and he was like, sure, I love that movie in theaters. And boy, was he wide awake during the entire movie. He liked it as much as the classic films that inspired it. Indiana Jones, Spider-Man, Superman even. I think he likes this more than Superman. And I think that's just very, very exciting. I think it is just really, I think not only a crowd pleaser, but I think it's a mainstream crowd pleaser. And that's what's so exciting about it. I think it won over a lot of fans for Wonder Woman who weren't fans before. But let's just hope the DCEU, which continues to be fraught with problems, doesn't mess up the sequel, because as many people who are rooting for it, well, a lot of people are rooting against it. All right, now because I know you're curious, here are your 11 through 20 picks. Baby Driver, great comeback for Edgar Wright, and hopefully a breakthrough for Ansel Elgort. He missed out on the Han Solo movie, which I think he would have been perfect for, but hopefully there's another movie with his name on it, another big blockbuster film. Next, Dunkirk, not a bullseye for Nolan, but not a loss either. He continues to be very strong, and the support that his fandom gives him is unlike no other director. Coco, becoming more of a win for Pixar every day. Justice League is next. It got a lot of worst votes as well, but at least some DCEU fans continue to be extremely loyal. Then Call Me By Your Name. It is a huge deal for such a small film that has still such limited release to get so high up on this list. That's very exciting. Next up then, War for the Planet of the Apes. Matt Reeves is in a very good position to jump to his Batman movies, as he is very solid with fans. Then John Wick 2, because who doesn't love Keanu Reeves? And this movie was so inventively directed. And I have an interesting thing to end this list as well. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. Then Lady Bird. This is also a small film, so for this to get on the list is also a big deal for Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan as well. Another 2 big standout stars from 2017. It's like the indie Wonder Woman kind of, right? Then the Lego Batman movie, because there's no denying the power of the Batman brand. It's a very clever film. A great ad campaign, one of the best ad campaigns of the year. And we'll see if Chris McKay gets his reward, that live-action Nightwing movie. It should be Zac Efron. All right, then finally, Atomic Blonde. What a pleasant surprise to see you guys put this as number 20 on your list. This is from the other half of the directing duo of the first John Wick, so both those guys are still continuing to deliver for you. And then I remarked in my review of Atomic Blonde, Wonder Woman and Atomic Blonde are opposite sides of the same coin. So to see them effectively at the beginning and the end of your list of the top 20 movies of the year, well, I think that just is very poetic. All right, so again, those are your top movies of 2017. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about the results down below, and stay tuned for your list of the top 5 worst movies of the year. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.